Morning, Olgata. Welcome, Lo number one, week belong you, Lo University. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm absolutely honored to be here. It's very difficult to follow the fantastic address that Ambassador North has provided, but I will do my best. I'm honored to stand here and privileged at such an important time in our lives and in your lives, particularly for new students starting university. And to come to a place which focuses on and specializes in technology, I think is absolutely fantastic. Unitec is unique. It's unique because of its history, it's unique because of its focus, and it's a place which is definitely flying and going to make things really happen in the world. If we look at the way in which technology has transformed our world, right, it's quite staggering, particularly in the last 25 years or so. Literally every aspect of our lives, whether it's through engineering, through maths, through natural sciences, through social sciences and humanities, the arts, if you look at the kinds of ways in which technology has transformed our world, it is really fantastic. Look at communication technology. Yesterday I sat in the evening at a dinner here and was contacting my family at home in the UK. But at the touch of a button, it's amazing how technology has transformed the world, and will keep doing that. Last week, or a few weeks ago, Bill and Melinda Gates launched their annual sort of State of the World report. And one of the things they said is that over the last 15 years, technology has made new things possible, particularly for some of the poorest people on our planet. And over the next 15 years or 20 years, it will move at an even more rapid pace. And at Unitec, you are right at the center of that in Papua New Guinea. At Unitec, you have students not just from every part of Papua New Guinea, you have students from the Pacific. I understand you have colleagues from Solomons here, you have colleagues from Vanuatu, you have students also from Guyana for the first time, and from Jamaica, and more students coming from other parts of the world. It's a real great place to be, it's a happening place. And in the change, in the way in which technology is changing the world, Unitec so far has not just been a bystander. Let me give you just a couple of examples about that. The first is, if you look at what Unitec has been doing in the area of global information systems, planning, geographical planning and so on. Some amazing work going on, including in Leh, where you have the new port now and new prospects as well. But your department here has played an important role in GIS, trialing that and actually extending some of that. If you look at the area where through your department of maths and computer sciences, and particularly the work of Nicholas Hui from that department, Unitec played a key role in the last year in looking at what's called cell management system for prisons, working with the Australian Federal Police. And Unitec helped pioneer some new things in that whole arena to keep prisoners safe, but also make sure that people outside prisons are safe. The whole cell management technology and the way that works. But it's not just about the big things. I have to say, even for my own organization, which is the United Nations in Papua New Guinea, we have 2 members of Unitec staff working within my team. I think one that many of you will know is Tony Kepo, who was here working on housing and coordinating some of that work. And Tony is working now as part of the UN system in Papua New Guinea. We also have Matilda Herrera, who was working on audit and finance issues in Unitec and is now working there. So we are really pleased to strengthen our partnership even more today by being here. Right. So that's a long introduction, but let me say today what I would like to really talk about is two things. Okay, the first is about transformations in our life, and I would like to follow on particularly with some of the things that Ambassador Noor also spoke about. The second thing is I'd like to tell you a little bit about the United Nations system in Papua New Guinea, and also how young people and people at universities and so on can be more engaged with our work and how we can work together. Before doing that, though, I'd like to say a little bit about myself, just so that you know who I am and so on. Of course, you can find out more information about me, but I should say that I am, first and foremost, originate in India, but born in Kenya, in Africa. And I'm very proud of that heritage. Okay? I grew up in Kenya and was born there. At the age of 10, my family moved to the United Kingdom, where I did my studies and so on. My family I come from a very humble family, family with very modest means. I know Paulina, the Vice Chancellor's wife, is from the same part of Kenya, is from Kenya as well, and she knows exactly what I mean when I say that I grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in Nairobi. It's called Eastlake, and it is a neighborhood which is very, very tough, where there's a lot of difficulties and so on, and that's where I grew up. So part of my life, and when I went to the UK, I studied law as my first degree. I then worked for a number of years and then went back to university to study development studies for 2 years to complete my Master of Philosophy. And then I've worked across different countries in Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Mozambique, Malawi, West Africa. I've worked in India and also in Central Asia and so on. But last year, for the first time, I came to Papua New Guinea, and it's my first time in the Pacific and Papua New Guinea. So my life has been full of lots of transformations, and that's the first thing that I want to talk to students about. Transformations of culture, moving from one culture to another. Transformations of moving to different countries and different contexts. Of course, also, the transformation that many first-year students are making right now, the first time when you go from home to somewhere far off, or perhaps not so far off, to university. And that's a big transformation. For me, my first university was about 300 miles from where my family was based in the UK. And I have to say, when I got there, I was both excited but also quite nervous. I was nervous and a bit anxious. How would I do? How would other people see me? How would I link with people? How would I make new friends? And so on. But a couple of things that helped me. One was the people that I'd left behind. My family and my friends back home were the stable building block for everything else. I always remember them. Wherever I go in the world, they're the people who give you your values. They're the people who give you that base in which to believe. And that has stayed with me. The two major things I learned at university were first around how the world works. The way in which decisions get made in the world. How both at a macro level, at the big level, but also in our communities, in the institutions where we live and work and so on and so on. And the whole of my life has been about trying to understand more and more. And as the Buddha once said, I'm not a Buddhist, but I do believe in looking at all religions across the world. The sixth Buddha said that one of the things you have to do in your life is continue to try and understand the world in which you live and continue to strive for the truth. The moment you think you understand everything is the moment you start to fail. Life is about continuous learning and improvement. And so I hope that that's something that will help you as well as you start your careers at the university. The second major lesson for me from my university days was it's great to learn about the world and how it operates, but actually, equally important is to understand yourself. It's a very, very basic thing. What is it that motivates you? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of mark do you want to make in the world? Both in terms of your friends, your family, the people that you work with, and so on. And so a major part of my life has also been constantly learning about myself. What kind of person do I want to be? How do I want to live my life? And so on. And all of us, regardless of where we come from, have lots of choices to make on that. Every single day, you have choices that you can make. And as Ambassador North said, if you make wise decisions and you do make the right decisions and doing the right things, it can take you a long, long way. That's a little bit about transformations. I would love to hear your views on this and to talk more about that. Let me turn briefly to a little bit about my work as the UN Resident Coordinator in Papua New Guinea. I've been here a year. I am the head of one part of one particular UN organization, the United Nations Development Programme, but I'm also the coordinator for all of the UN agencies in Papua New Guinea. And there are 14 UN agencies that work in Papua New Guinea, are based here and work here. Many of them, I think you will know. You will know, I'm sure, UNICEF, which works with children. Perhaps you will know also UN Women, focusing on how do we empower women and girls. You might know the World Health Organization, which has recently been dealing with Ebola, but deals with a whole range of things, including in our country at the moment, a major challenge around drug-resistant TB, trying to counteract that and so on. There are many different UN organizations that work here. The United Nations was, of course, started and founded after the Second World War. And the focus of the reason why it was started was to deal with some of the really complex and difficult challenges that the world faces. Challenges which are not just about one country negotiating with another country, but challenges which involve many different countries. So if you think about what are some of those complex challenges, you think about climate change and the way in which it's changing our world. The fact that disasters are getting much more, we're having to live with many more and more frequent disasters in the world. If you look at the issue of human rights, is another complex set of challenges. If you look at literally trade, development issues, there's a whole set of complex challenges that the United Nations tries to help address, and we need to work with partners. One of the things in our complex world is that we can no longer, there is not one discipline that can change and deal with all of the problems of the world, and there is no one institution. The world is about making connections, partnerships, alliances, and so on, where together we can make a change. One of the major focus areas for the United Nations system was set from the year 2000, and we have the 8 Millennium Development Goals, which were agreed by global leaders in 2000, and this year, 2015, will be the stop date of those goals. How well has the world done? And I think we will hear more this year. Throughout this year, you will hear more about how we're doing and so on. It's fair to say that the Millennium Development Goals are an unfinished revolution, and later this year, the new goals that will guide the work for the next 15, 20 years will be agreed. The new, what is called the Sustainable Development Goals. And the United Nations and all of the agencies in Papua New Guinea work to try and work with government and with citizens, with businesses and so on in each country to try and address those goals and help improve the lives of citizens. Having these kind of objectives and goals is really important, because what it does is it helps galvanize all of our energies and efforts to work together to achieve something greater that no one person or no one institution can achieve. And so I would encourage those who have come to university for the first time, try this quite early in your careers to establish your own goals for this year and for the longer term. And the more you talk about your goals and share them and maybe even adjust them as you go along, it will help you the more you have clear goals, it helps you to drive and achieve those and to move towards them. So that's a little bit about our work in the United Nations system here in Papua New Guinea. We have 4 major areas where we work with government. Okay, and broadly the first is around governance, including dealing with issues like corruption, anti-money laundering, but also peace and development, and so on. That's the first thing that we do. The second major thing that we do is work around social justice, protection, and gender equality, improving the lives of women and girls in particular. But that also means educating and working with men and boys. The third thing we do is work around basic services, particularly improving the quality of services, health, education, water and sanitation, but also financial inclusion, getting more banking to remote areas, and so on. And the final thing we do is work around climate change, environment, and disaster risk reduction. Now, this is a really big year. 2015 is a big year internationally because we have major conferences taking place this year. World Humanitarian Conference, we have the new Sustainable Development Goals that will be agreed, and at the end of the year, a new major conference on climate change. But we also all know that it's a very big year for Papua New Guinea. We have, of course, the Pacific Games. We have a major program here taking place with the Pacific Islands Forum, the leaders meeting. We have our 40th independence celebrations and so on. And we have lots, right now, today, in fact, in Port Moresby, we have the Leaders Summit also going on. So we have a lot to do in Papua New Guinea, and we need to make sure that what we do in country links up with the region, the Pacific region and the Asia-Pacific region, but also with the world as a whole. Let me finish now just by saying a few ways in which we work with young people and to really encourage you to engage with the United Nations system and so on. And just to give you a few examples of that. Right now, up until March the 15th, we have a major thing with the Kumul Foundation going on. It's a business challenge competition where we're saying to people across Papua New Guinea, if you have a good business idea, propose it, and if you look at the Kumul Foundation's website, you will find all the details of it. Propose your idea, and what we will do is from all of the ideas we get, those ideas need to be linked to development challenges that our people in Papua New Guinea face. What will help to reduce, for example, the burden of transport, difficulties around transport, transporting goods to markets, or improving education, or health, or any services, etc. If you have good ideas, propose them on the Kumul Foundation website, and then what we'll do is select the best ideas. We will help to train those people who have proposed the ideas to put you through a business incubation training for about 4 or 5 weeks with some of the best people in our region and the world. And then we will ask you to pitch your ideas to a group of people who will hopefully put down some money to back up your ideas. So what we're trying to do is to create a new group of younger entrepreneurs to take forward the challenges and so on. So that's one immediate thing, and I would encourage those who have good ideas like that to use technology and so on, propose your ideas, and if you're selected, it's a great way to make a difference. Second thing that we're doing is earlier this week, we sent 2 people from The Voice Inc., which is a student-led organization who are doing some leadership training on your campus right now, but also from the YWCA. We sent them to what's called the ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council meeting, Youth Council meeting, which is talking about the new goals after this year, the Sustainable Development Goals. And Barbara Thomas and Naomi Waenga are representing Papua New Guinea there, and those of you who are on Twitter and social media will be no doubt following some of what Barbara and Naomi have been tweeting about. And when they come back, they're going to be going around the country talking about what they learned, to share their experience and so on. And we're looking to strengthen our partnership with young people. The third thing is we have a number of things, a number of international days throughout the year. Okay, so whether it's the International Day of Human Rights, of Environment, or working on HIV/AIDS and supporting that and countering HIV/AIDS, the spread of HIV/AIDS and so on. There are a whole lot of international days. And if you are passionate about particular issues, find out which is the international day that you can support. Perhaps organize with your friends and other people who care about that, and maybe form a club to get behind it. One of the things we did last year was the Walk Against Corruption with Transparency International in Papua New Guinea. And I hope that Unitec students will also this year take part in that more. The final thing that we are doing is also exploring ideas for new courses that could be run with the university. So with UPNG recently, last year, and with the National Disaster Centre, we started a course on how do we help communities to be more resilient and prepared for disasters. And it's a course that has started in UPNG. We're looking to how do we further it, but also work on, for example, urban planning. We're interested to talk to faculty members about that and other areas. So those are some of the ways in which the United Nations system in Papua New Guinea is looking forward to build its partnership with you. My final thing is, as I said, I'm originally from India, born in Kenya, and I always like to also quote something which from some of the most famous people from the countries where I come from. And I think today what I'd like to do is to leave you with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who's the most famous Indian person of all time. And what Gandhiji said, he said two things. One, which builds very much on what Ambassador North said, is be the change you want to see. If you want the world to be better, you have to model that behavior. You have to behave in the right ways. Be that change, because others will then follow you. The second thing he said was also that the future depends on what we do in the present. If you want your future to be in a particular way, you want it to be shaped in a particular way, you need to start now. Live for the moment, enjoy Unitec and so on, take every opportunity, explore lots of new things, make new friends. Always remember your family and friends, wherever you're from, be part of the global solution to all of the challenges that our world faces. Together, we can be the change that we want to see. Thank you.